reading here today, and I will take this. I like this, page 50, fourth paragraph down. Here are thousands of men and women, worldly indeed. They flatly declare that since they have come to believe in a power greater than themselves, to take a certain attitude toward that power, and to do certain simple things, there has been a revolutionary change in their way of living and thinking. In the face of collapse and despair, in the face of the total failure of their human resources, they found that a new power, peace, happiness, and sense of direction flowed into them. This happened soon after they wholeheartedly met a few simple requirements. Once confused and baffled by the seeming futility of existence, they show the underlying reasons why they were making a heavy going of life. Leaving aside the drink question, they tell why living was so unsatisfactory. They show how the change came over them when many of hundreds of people are able to say that the consciousness of the presence of God is today the most important fact of their lives. They present a powerful reason why one should have faith. That's the reading there, Paul.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I still haven't gotten a new book. I don't have page 50, but I listened. And so what's the opposite of conscious presence of God would be the conscious presence of us, right? So when we're consciously present of us, Paul and Kurt and Mary and Jill, it acts as the trigger to be unconscious to the presence of God, so to speak, yes? And then we want to experience the presence of God as the presence of Paul. And then there's great masters, St. Francis says, you die to this self and then you're reborn. So there's a certain requirement, and it isn't about getting you in super fit condition, it's losing interest in you. And that's the gaining interest in the conscious presence of God. You trying to be become more conscious in the presence of God could be more consciousness of you, or me more self-conscious. Yeah, you have to see these little activities because they're the principles of the underlying causes and conditions. Yeah. Self can't get out of self. So if self sets off on a 3-year course of how to lose interest in self, that could be construed as interest in self. Just sit with that for a second. Unbeknownst to us, we're living as if we are this idea of Kurt or Paul. And from that idea, we move to find a better Kurt, and let's say by being more conscious of God as Kurt, yeah. But what actually gets reinforced in that activity, there is more conscious or self-conscious of Kurt going on concerning the topic of God consciousness, yeah. So basically, whatever endeavor or activity we're moving through or towards, it's being used to reinforce who the hell's moving towards it or through it, which is this idea of Kurt and Paul. And in our humble take, this is the problem. The act of being identified as self, not your lack of presence of God, because I think you are presence of God. Yeah. It's the the obsession with this imaginary presence of Paul, which is being used to block off or to make that inner resource an unsuspected inner resource. Yeah. So as we're living every day, we're unsuspected to the condition of our true condition, which is God, let's say, or Godness or consciousness. So we're unsuspecting that inner resource because it's being used for other endeavors by the mental activity. So that inner resource is us, really. Yeah. We're usually not in the position to admit that. So we use a higher power as an interlude. But basically, after a while, if the higher power seems to be always available at all times, right where you are, with no requirement necessary to arrive there, it sounds like you, really, doesn't it? I mean, seriously, it sure sounds like it's you that you're looking for, but not the you that's presented by the head. And the problem resides in the mind, alcoholism, and the underlying problem resides in the mind, the act of being identified as self. Yeah. Now we take care of alcoholism, but a lot of times that's not sufficient to take care of the act of being identified as self. So it says here, putting aside the drinking problem, we're now going to look at the deeper causes and conditions, so to speak. And I feel it's the addiction to self, and it's not your addiction. You're just going along for the ride. Yeah. And it's not treating you well, I feel. Yeah. So when I saw this idea was not me, the possibility of being free from it became available. And then I had a very short class. It didn't take any time at all, but it scanned a lot of time. There was a quick looking at my life from about 7 on, and basically most of my activity was self, trying to get out of self. And obviously, whatever I tried didn't work because it was self doing it. Yeah, so self was trying to make the escape and wanted to report back how it did in the escape. Yeah, when we wanted an escape from that, not as that. Yes, don't you see it? It's got to be obvious. We have been handcuffed because we've tried to be free as that we'd like to be free from. This is just primary factual basis. Yeah. Yeah. And I find if that changes, it has an influence on everything else. Changing everything else may not have an influence on that. But if that changes, everything else will change. That's pretty good. Yeah. And then you know you're onto something because you're onto something. You don't need cheerleaders and rah sessions and shit like that. You can, the tree is producing the goods and you recognize by the tree by its fruit. Yeah. Yeah. You now feel a relief you never felt before because you were trying to be relieved as that which was the lack of relief. Yeah. Now we're getting relieved of that. And this works. Yeah. The other one did it. I mean, how many people, and I give them credit, most people, when they look into spirituality, they go to a lot of places. They don't usually settle. Yeah. They go to one and they jump to another. And then after they've jumped from one to another, they try to synthesize some and attach it to the other. So now you have Catholicism with Tantra or fucking Kabbalah and, shamanistic Peruvian ceremonies. You're just trying to mix and match. And ultimately, it doesn't seem to work because you're in it. That's the whole dilemma. Every cake you bake, you're one of the main ingredients. That's why the cake sucks. Yeah, it doesn't matter how much different icing you put on it. Yeah, it's like Budweiser. Budweiser was a shitty beer. It still probably is. They just changed the cans and shit. You know what I mean? They put 3 openings. What the fuck? Who cares? Yeah, just change your product. They can't do that because it's 98% water. Whatever. They just refuse to make it better. They just try to fool everyone. This is the head, isn't it? It sells us the same old. Some of the dreams it used to sell you when you were 17 look weird when you're 70. They just are. You don't want to park in front of the junior high school for long. It's probably not going to go well. This shit's you gotta see something, I hope. So if everything's working and you're on that pink cloud, man, just stick your head in that pink cloud. But when, let's say, certain things just start seeming ordinary and normal again, and there's that agitation and it's getting boring and everything like that, this would probably prove to be quite helpful, because that which is telling you it's boring is not you. That which is talking to you all day is not you. You fell in love with the newscaster, like Walter Cronkite. You don't give it, it's presenting false evidence and you still fucking buy it. Yeah. So this is about a relief from that which is wanting relief. Yeah. Wasn't that demand every day when you were out there? Every day, self wanted relief, actually from self. And because self can't get relief from self, it didn't work, but it gave it a fucking great try. And I went back to shit that hadn't worked, and it tried it, and it tried it, and it tried it. And it still didn't work because it was the main ingredient in all of its equations. Yeah. Peace, you were in there. Happiness, you. This is why everything seems to escape us, because of who's been invited to the party. So what's the pivotal position? There's many of them. One of them is like seeing your role in things in the fourth column of the inventory. But before that, one of the great pivots of our program is losing interest in self. And then they get into the third step, promises or effects, yes? But it's pivoted on losing interest in self. And the whole thing is pivoted on quit playing God. Yeah. Now, when we are that which is playing God, taking ourselves to be that, and then we try to quit playing God, isn't that playing God? So if that which is playing God here's the idea that it has to quit playing God, or because it doesn't work, it's going to do exactly that. That's all it can do, is play God. And it will just override, it doesn't work. It'll just keep on keeping on. Yeah. But what if you could see you're not that which is playing God? Wouldn't that be a form of quitting playing God? Considering the playing God is based on your energy and interest and attention. So if that was withdrawn, wouldn't that quit playing God? In other words, stop facilitating that person getting loaded. It's sort of like codependence and shit. We're enabling something to occur through ignorance in a way. Yeah. What happens? I don't know. I found if I'm interested in somebody and they're talking in the other room and I'm trying to wait to them to say something with like, I like that guy, Paul, and they say, I like that guy, Scott, I lose interest in it immediately. Why? Because it's not about me. This is what happens with this message. You now see that thing that's constantly yapping and presenting its false evidence, hoping that you will buy it and then it will appear to be real. You see you're not that, and then there's a loss of interest in it. And you, just like it says in the book, losing interest in self, you now gain interest in others. You now look at life as what you can contribute to it. Your whole point of view changes because it moves from a self-centered point of view to a centered point of view. Yeah. So you see the same shit differently. Instead of trying to change all the shit, yeah, which is always the same old, you see the shit differently. Yeah. Not through the eyes of self, even though the eyes of self are still informing you of how it sees it, you realize I don't see it that way. Finally. Yeah. So when it says I resent that person, it does. The sense of self resents that person because it's a small myopic view and it feels threatened all the time. When it says it's always afraid, it's telling the truth about its condition, not your condition. Listen to it. There is great value in knowledge of self. Listen to what it says about itself and stop aligning it as a description of you, please. Just take a break, even if it's like a little lunch break or a coffee break from it. Just take a break from it, because it's describing, when it says my resentments, that's true to it. It is the cause of the resentment, self. Yeah. It's telling the truth about itself. It's not telling the truth about you. But why do we take it? Because we're identified as self. This is, to me, the root of the problem. Yes, it is. Isn't it talking about its condition most of the time? And yet we're taking it to be our condition. Obviously. Even if you have an incredible condition right now, its condition is it's not going to last. So it's constantly in an anxiety. Why are you constantly in anxiety? Why can't you respond to the condition you're in instead of react to the condition it says you're in? Why? There must be some kind of allegiance we have with it. Yes, we're in the act of being identified as it. Yeah. It's in the act, and it just keeps presenting it as us and a historical us. Yeah. Can you imagine if its idea of you just showed up every second? You would have an immunity to it. But when it shows up, it says it's the historical you. It says, this is the way I've been seeing things for years. Yeah. No, this is the way it sees things through years. And then we waste all this time to convince it something otherwise than its agenda. Yes? Come on, become my amigo. Self-love. I'll give you everything. On and on. Does that work? It hasn't worked. Where's the inner child? You lost that years ago. The inner child. Do you hear anything about that anymore? Where all, you go to the post office, all pictures of your inner child lost once again. Yes. Did those things work? Where are they? No one ever talks about the inner child, do they anymore? What happened to that inner child? It wasn't an inner child. It was the fucking head talking once again to confuse us even more. Yeah. The frustration is so valuable because you'll get the fact that it's never going to get it. It's never going to get that it's not managerial quality. It's not going to get it. The innermost gets that. I got struck sober, and that unsuspected resource got the message. I'm fucked, and I'm not managerial quality. It set the course of the next 35 years. Doesn't come up for debate. It doesn't get reviewed. We don't bring in pundits to talk about it. It's just a fact. Yes, it's worked quite well. Yeah. And then I had the great gift of seeing it as not me, as clear as fucking day. And I saw the emperor with no clothes on, and then I could see the emperor has no clothes when it's wearing clothes. So when it constantly keeps presenting false evidence, I know it appears real to it. I know that. Yeah. The false evidence is appearing real to the head. It is. But I am now disengaged from that identity as the head. Yeah. I'm not trying to argue with its fucking worldview. I'm not. Because its worldview is myopic. It's small. It's centered on it. Yeah. You're not going to change that that's like the theme of the radio broadcast. You're not going to change it. You just see it as not you. Yeah. If you don't listen to it, you won't do what it says. If you don't do what it says, you won't have to deal with the consequences that ensues when you do what it says. And you won't get tattooed by its fucking little whimsical ideas. And that storm will pass, and no one else will be rained on. It may have bothered you and got you wet, but you're not in a 5 to 10 year prison sentence anymore. Yes? You're not up on stalking charges by your ex-wife. All this shit comes to pass. You don't get on that fucking train. it's great to know you're fucked after you're fucked, but it's much cooler to know it before. It really is. I swear, I don't want to know I shouldn't have done something after I did it and I'm in jail for 5 years. I just don't, I think that's a little too late. The mail came a little too late to be helpful. Yeah. So this is how I see it. I see the program of AA perfectly. It's incredible. But if you have a clear idea of the problem, it's going to illuminate the program for you. The program may not necessarily illuminate the problem because it doesn't seem to have all these years. I think self is surviving quite well in our community, this idea of self. But I do believe if you see the exact nature of its activity as foreign to you, it will bring an illuminating quality to the program and the principles and the suggestions and the habits that get formed. I really believe it will increase your peace of mind acreage. Yes. And you'll be and your freedom to graze like a free range alcoholic will grow. Yes. Yeah. That I feel completely. Yeah. So there you go. That's the message of this meeting. And what's great about this Zoom, it's allowed us to have this platform and just speak from this, about this, and not get into outside whatevers. And the freedom that it's not, this is not like AA on steroids or anything else like that. It's a member of AA, in AA, yeah, and now in recovery, sharing what was seen about the exact nature of the role. If it helps you live a sober life, fantastic. Yes. Yeah. If it allows you to travel lighter, fantastic. Yeah. But the only way I could offer the goods is, I've been given the goods. Yeah. I've had years of watching its effects, and it's become the last answer. Yeah. I haven't had another answer for years now. Yeah, it may explain everything that ever happened, literally, and why it keeps talking exactly like it always talked before, because it's talking about itself. It's not talking about you. You have changed. Yes, you have moved on. It hasn't. That's the way it goes. Yeah. But the thing is, people listen to it and they mimic it. It tells them how the day was, even though they lived the day. It tells them they had a bad day at 8 o'clock at night, and now they're calling up people and trying to get assurance it was a bad day at work, and this because they were out to lunch, really. Yeah, something was informing them about what they called their life. And it has a bias and an agenda concerning that interpretation. Yeah. To the point now, it's describing its own feeling and condition as clear as a bell, and we keep taking it to be ours. Yeah. It seems to be constantly afraid and agitated. It seems to, if it loses something, it thinks someone stole it like in a second. Yeah. It's fucking very suspicious, incredibly jealous, very, very fragile. Doesn't mind running over other people's toes, but God forbid someone back over yours. Yeah, it's fucking insane. It is, literally. And it keeps playing. Yeah, it just doesn't have the big toys it used to have, like real big cars to run into shit. And fucking, yeah. It can't hurt itself as much or hurt you in the process. Yeah. So when someone says they hate themselves, it's not them. Yeah. that they're their own worst enemy. No, you're not. Something is, but you're no, it's not you. It isn't. Yeah. You're not out to get you. You're really not. You just want to be okay somewhat. Yeah, probably. Yeah. So just listen to the head and see how what it says you take to be a description of you. Just tell the truth about that. And I think that's going to ring this bell of this message. Because if you have one example of that, it's not a big leap to realize most of the time that's what's going on. Yeah. So if you can see it for a minute or two, it's probably going on a lot longer than you would imagine. Yeah. That it's describing its world and its life to us. It's describing it to us, doesn't it? Doesn't it tell you how you feel? So it's telling you how it feels. It tells you how it sees shit, doesn't it? Ad nauseum. It goes on and on and on. It tries to say why it's right. Well, it's really yapping constantly. Why is it that we're taking it to be us? Doesn't it sound like it's playing to an audience? I mean, the thoughts aren't appearing on the front of your head skull, are they? They seem to be playing to someone Steve isn't here for this show. This is the theater of Paul. Yeah, it's playing to an audience. Yeah, and it's trying to convince the audience of something. I think we're an audience of none, spirit isn't a body. There's no ones or twos in spirit. But there's something playing to us, and it ain't us. Yeah. Yeah. So I feel that's the biggest crux of the matter. That's why I had great aspirations to be a universal speaker, but I just stuck on the same groove because I feel if you don't see this, you're looking from it. I do. That's as simple as I can say it. And I don't care how clear you are as a self. It can use clarity to reinforce itself quite a lot. I'm very clear. Yeah, no, I would just, whatever. Thanks, Kurt. Thanks, everyone. So I didn't go on to reading much, but.
Oh yeah, you did. I think you hit it. In fact, I was gonna have you say once confused and baffled by the seeming futility of existence. They show the underlying reasons why they were going heavy going of life, and then you went on. The offering was that. I mean, yeah, that was great.
That's the underlying reason. The underlying reason is we're confused about the interpretation of life that we call ours. Yeah. And the confusion is we're identified as what's being described. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not, obviously. You're not hateful. I don't believe it. You may have anger may move through you. I don't think you're simmering in rage all the fucking time. And even if these things are true, you ever see how emergencies bring the best out of people? All divisions are forgotten if someone gets into an accident or something. You'll run into a house on fire to try to save someone you don't know. I mean, this whole story of self is tenuous at best. Yes, it can be dropped like that. Unfortunately, it needs to usually to be a catastrophic event, but we're hoping we can learn it in an easier, softer way. Yeah. And this idea of I hate everyone, and this is fucking crazy. Yeah. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong wanting to have distance from a lot of people. There's nothing right or wrong with it. Yeah. It's just a tendency. Yeah. Why the hell? Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see it? Doesn't it talk about, why does it sound so convincing when it says a resentment is it? Because that's the truthful recognition. Self manifested in various ways is what has defeated us. Resentment is one of the manifestations of self, the common ones in our life. And so self reacts to resentment and tells the truth. This is my resentment. That's what it does. It's completely telling the truth, but how we hear it is way off. Yes. We somehow now think it's my resentment. Yeah. Yeah.
Great point.
Well, this has really been burrowing into me lately for years now, this idea, because when it feels so true, it feels so true to it. Yeah. See, this is what people tell you. Well, it feels so true. No. When it's singing that song, it believes the song. Yeah, it is. Does that mean the song is believable? No, but it believes the song. It does. It believes people are out to get it. It believes if you lose the keys to your car, your neighbor stole them or whatever. It's just, this is how it is. It's a fucking wreck, really. And then it talks about, oh, I'll truly relax when I finally find peace. It can't. It's agitated. Yeah, it can't rest. That's a whole fucking story. Yeah. Have you ever did long meditations? Usually you immediately get up when you start going into a deeper peace. As long as you're thinking about the oven and leaving this on, you'll sit there for hours. But when the real threat is when it gets peaceful, then the head wants to get up like that. Because the peace brings it into such stark contrast. You may see the emperor has no clothes at that moment. Yeah, it does not want to have you meet a moment, have you meet it in that moment of peace. It does not want that to happen. Yeah, because it just erodes its whole foundation of the story that it's you. Yeah. Yeah. So it talks a big game, but no, when it comes, it'll flip out, I swear, if it enters peace. And then if it's you think you flipped out, but you did. If you see it's not you, you'll sit there, and then you'll go places it can never take you. You will, and you'll be at home. Yeah, and it can never take you there. Yeah, so
that's great.
That's the message with today. And then steps are great, everything's great. But I do believe the steps may not bring you to the exact nature of the wrong, but seeing the exact nature of wrong may illuminate the steps a whole lot more. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because obviously there's a lot of people that have been in AA a long time and they never came to this idea. Yeah. And so we're bringing this idea up, and hopefully in an easier, softer manner, you can entertain this idea and then see how it illuminates your way of life, the sober life. Yeah. I think it's a perfect companion piece to the design for living and this description of the exact nature of the wrong. I do. Okay. Of course, I wouldn't be here, obviously. So, yeah.
We wouldn't be doing the meeting, right?
No, probably not. I'd be looking to get some peace and something else. Yeah, I would. I'd probably still be seeking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you find something and you still seek, you didn't find something. The finding something should stop a lot of the seeking sooner or later. Yes, because now you are what you've been looking for. That means that's going to have a very severe effect on the looking for it.
That's what I love about when you say that, it's the last answer. You really, that is, I think that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Here and time, this is the last answer concerning this important topic. And to me, it takes away the need of any other answers, which is awesome. Really, because you know how many answers we've gotten, and then more questions arise, and it goes on and on and on. This has put a stop to that, at least here. So, yeah. That tells me a lot about it. The effects of the message have told me a lot about the message. Yeah, because I haven't had this long-lasting effect from any other message.
Right.
So, yeah. Usually there'd be a message and it would bring something about and it would lead me to another message. This, I haven't been led to anything after this. Except sharing it and stuff. Yep. I'm led to that, yes, sharing it. Yeah. You have it by giving it away.
Well, isn't that the effect? I mean, that's the effect of that, right? I mean, it's like it wants to express itself. I mean,
yes. Yeah. And then the head goes along expecting to get laurels and have, it thinks it knows what the outcome's going to be. And it's always going to get frustrated because you may not be greeted with rose petals and parades. Yes. People may not want to hear about it. And that's great. You learn that people don't want to hear about it. You don't talk about it. Yeah. I'm not going to a coffee shop and, bringing up this topic. We do it in this setting, and I have a feeling that if you're here, this is an interest in this topic, so let's go at it. Yeah, we're not evading other meetings and breaking in and
right.
just making a spiritual public announcement. No, I don't. I have faith that everything's working out anyway. I really do. You know, it was trippy when I was young. My father died, yeah, when I was 9. Yet he was sick since he got sick when I was about 6, yeah. It affected obviously his relations to everyone, my mom, my grandmother, the kids. And he didn't look good. He was and I had a very limited view. I was a little kid. I didn't know what was going on really. And then it was a Sunday or a Saturday, and we had a lunch, and my mother asked me to get my father, and my father was sleeping in my bed, took a nap, and I went in there, and he had a smile on his face, and he had passed away. Yeah, made a huge impression on me. I didn't know that he was dead until my mother came in the room, and I saw her reaction, and then I realized. But the biggest imprint was that smile, because I hadn't seen him smile in years. It was great, man. So it gave me a very, like where the unsuspected inner resource, a sense of okayness about this unknowable condition called passing away. Yeah, it looked pretty good to him, so to speak. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah.
Good talk.
Yeah. All right. Want to bring anything in or something?
Anybody got anything they want to just raise your hand and Michael will acknowledge you. No, I'm just kidding. Anybody got any questions want to share?
Well, that's great if they don't.
I want to say something. My name's Michael, and I'm a satisfied customer of Zen Bitch Slap. Paul, you just made me tear up with that story about your father, and I never heard that story, and that was absolutely great. I was reading in the big book on page 11, and this goes a lot to what you were saying about, well, I've heard it several ways, but about being taken over. And when I heard you say it the first time, I was like, oh, that's pretty radical, I was like, oh, but after further investigation into the big book, it says on page 11, he says, if there was a devil, he seemed the boss universal, and he certainly had me. And if that isn't just exactly like what you're talking about being taken over, which
Yeah.
like, you know, like, did I, man, would I have done some of the crap that I've done under the influence that I don't do that stuff now, you know?
No, you wouldn't have done it. No way.
Yeah.
Something has us. Yes.
Absolutely. And then in the next paragraph, it says, but my friend sat before me and he made the point blank declaration that God had done for him what he could not do for himself. And I've often heard you say that he, like, oh, maybe he could not do for himself, or he wouldn't do for himself, you know, and that really brings home. And then it says his human will had failed.
Yes, because his human will was taken over by self's will. Yes. So we were looking out for self's interests, not our own interests. So at that point, the will had been infected with the disease. Yes. So now it became self-will. And as it says in the book, you know, any life run on self-will will hardly be a success. And so what we're looking at when we look at our life is a life run on self-will. Yeah. And this is where the commonality of what has taken us over shows itself, because it's presented as very unique and personal and terminally unique and all this shit, but it isn't. It's a shared condition. Yeah. There's a lot of us who our will was dismissed and self-will took over. And we have been an example of a life run on self-will not being successful. Yes. And there's thousands of ways: inability to have a relationship with another person, all this stuff. It has a crippling effect on us. Yeah. And we would do anything we could do to get out of it. And we've proven that by the lengths we try to go to forget ourselves. But we're in the act of being identified as it, which cripples all those attempts. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't get out of something as that something you're trying to get out of. It's impossible. Yeah. And this is unfortunately what we do, because to go into a book called The Course in Miracles for a second, it says, you know, that I paraphrase it a little. It says a head has made this something else to be ourself. Yeah. So this presentation of us is made up by the head. And being firm in faith in that, we're in the act of denial of what we are. So in part of self's will is a denial of our will. Yeah. And then we become powerless over self's will. So self-will overrides any power that we may have had concerning this, the act of drinking and the using and the acting out and fucking up. Yeah. So it says here, if there's something else we made to be ourselves, why would we be suspicious of its direction? Yeah. Well, after your life has seemingly been ruined, maybe you are suspicious of its fucking intention. And hopefully by doing the inventory and you saw your role in things in the fourth column, you saw its role in things. Hopefully. And now you see, oh, so this is how self-will has defeated me by filling up my life with its manifestations, resentments, fear, harms done to others in pursuit of what we want. Yes. All these principles we thought we had, we didn't live them when we were under its control. And this whole thing goes on. When is it going to become clear it's not us? That's what flips me out. Yeah. I mean, it's so obvious it's not us. It's described in the book as not us. We were driven, a devil took me over, I was compelled, I made decisions based on self. What is that but an occupation? Something has you. And it's not like you're going to be free of being had. You're just going to be had by a higher force, so to speak, which is the spirit. It doesn't say there's only an old employer you have to get rid of. There's an old employer and a new employer. The word employ means to use. We're going to be used. Yeah. It's what's using us is going to produce what we're going to produce in our lives. Yes. So I do not believe we manufacture our own misery. I believe if the facility called Paul is taken over by self, one of the products that Paul will produce will be misery. I do not believe Paul is producing it. I don't. I believe Paul's life run as self is producing the misery. That's how I see everything, bro. I do. I see this as a foreign occupation. Now, ultimately, is it an aspect of us? Ultimately, maybe, yeah. But the fact is, right now, it's thinking it's all of us. Yeah. It's thinking it's all of us. And it seems to be having its sway. Yeah. So I don't think it works to start looking at it as a part of me that I just have to manicure or get behaved or tamed or make a friend with. I'd rather see it as something foreign to me. It works, or it did work here. Yeah. So this is all I'm presenting is how it worked with me, with the hopes that maybe it'll work the same way with you. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't want to, have a kumbaya line with it. I don't. I want to see it as something other than me. And I mean, if you really look at it now, Self's cousins and uncles must own a lot of rehabs and shit, because it's a huge business has grown around us addicts and alcoholics. Huge business. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and a lot of a lot of those modalities are created by the condition you're describing.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
It persists, bro. It doesn't, something like mutates and grows. Yeah. So it starts like as something, and then it grows into other things. Yes. And if it's not stopped, it will just grow. And then it mutates and it takes on different appearances and forms. And you'll be amazed at what you'll fucking do. Yeah. But it will bring you there sooner or later. Yeah. So, I mean, look at the commonality. When I'm describing what it was like for me, it sounds like what it was like for you. Yes, because I'm not describing me and you. I'm describing a singularity that took us over, which is named in recovery as self. That's what we're describing here. Yeah. So when you feel like it sounds like you, that's the perfect demonstration of this message, the sense of the act of being identified as what you're not. You listen to a description of self and you think it's a description of you. That's the root of the whole fucking activity. Yes. It just makes a feeling. You have a sense of it. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hey, Paul, Greg's got his hand up. Go ahead.
Hey, Paul.
Hello.
Sound good. I got on late. Sounds like I'm in the right place. I was going over some videos as I was decompressing from Burning Man, and the day that we burned the man, 2 days late. One of the people I was with, he yells out, he goes, "You wasted so much of my fucking time." and so, yeah, there you go, man. This thing, this false persona getting in the way, right? And then thinking somehow, some way, like you're saying, it's me, because it's convinced me of that, and I'm constantly tending to it. What a fucking waste of time. But I mentioned in the meeting the other day, one of the most favorite things that you shared lots, but one of the most favorite is self-knowledge avails us nothing but knowledge of self. That does. And the action, the movement to see it, when I was at Miranda, something came up and I didn't have a chance to talk to her for a really long time. And I wanted to let her know what was coming up, right? But in the meantime, I couldn't stop paying attention to what was coming up, right? So that was that man, right? and I mentioned something to her son. And that's where all shit broke loose, right? Anyways, long story short, didn't go very well. So yeah, and I had to make amends and leave and all this other stuff. But anyway, so it took a perfectly wonderful situation and let the idea, this false persona, begin to take over in that wonderful situation and turn it into garbage. And that hasn't been the first time. It's happened many times. But yeah, you know, Christian helped me work through that, and my sponsor as well. Because yeah, thanks. What else?
See, the beautiful thing is there's only a false persona. There isn't a true persona.
Right.
There's not the unburned man and the burned man. Burning man doesn't end up with an unburnt man.
Yeah.
Or a man who went through the burning of a man. It's the Superman. No.
Yeah.
The persona is a significant manufacturing from this idea of self. Yes. That you're a unique individual island, and you're the doer of everything, you're the thinker of everything, and the feeler of everything. That's absurd. You don't even digest your own food. You don't take the shit.
So doing long meditations, because I do them every day now. When I first started, I had an intention, and now I don't care about the intention. I just want to see what's going to show up, right?
Yeah,
that was one thing. And the first thing that showed up was, why are you doing this? My head says. And then, you know, you need to eat, you need to go do this. And then it's reviewing shit that happened. It has nothing to do with anything that's happening right now, or is trying to play out what my future is going to be like. And it's typically not like some exciting thing. It's like doom and gloom. And yeah, so it was interesting to see the play of that. And that to me is that false persona trying to, the fecal blur or whatever, trying to get in the way of the real view, you know, the one that doesn't need any help. Yeah, and it's interesting because in that absence, I literally don't feel sick. One day, not too long ago, I did come home from working and my whole body was aching. And I said, you know, I'm really hurting and I really don't want to do this, but I did it anyways. And I went into real long meditation. And at some point in the meditation, I left. I don't know where the hell I went, but I was still awake. And when I came back,
well, it left.
Right. Okay, there you go. It left. But then when the awareness came back, my body was in no pain. It was completely gone. I didn't need Advil or exercises or stretches, or I'd never had that experience before. That profound. Yeah, it was beautiful. I was like bragging about it, and or it was bragging about it, trying to claim it, right? Yeah. So.
Yeah, and you see that which is bragging about it isn't you,
right?
You. Yeah. See, it may look like you have to state something, but because it's actually true, you won't need to state it for long. But sometimes to break an old habit, you've got to get into a habit of something else. But that, because you're not just, the old habit was based on something that's false, this one will be based on something that's true. And so the habit doesn't need to be reinforced. It will reinforce itself. So yeah, so every once in a while you say, I'm not that, but you're not greeting everything, I'm not that, I'm not that. Because it becomes a knowledge or a knowing you're not that. Every once in a while, if it's louder than usual or something, you may want to say, I'm not that. But yeah, it doesn't lead into more, I'm not that. It leads into less of statement of it, more the fact of it. Yeah. Yeah. So you're living, just like it says, people in the program know this statement, you work the steps, then they start working you, then you start living, then they start living you, and stuff like that. So there's there's definitely a growth of what's going on, to what at one part you thinking you're doing it, then you're getting that it's doing you. Yes, this happens all the time. Yeah. So the same thing with I'm not that. You think you're doing it to react to that thing that you're afraid of being that again. And then after that, after a while, that drops, because now you have a knowing you're not that. Yeah. And it rings true from beginning to end, because you're not that. It's the mystery of us. Yeah. Becoming clear about the not the mystery of self. Self isn't mysterious. It's repetitious, has finite traits. It always overplays its hand. It can't help itself. Yeah, it will always reveal itself. It will. Yep. So
good point. So we can end it on that, huh, Paul? It's 11:35.
Oh yeah, it is. I think my clock is running. It's only 11:25 here.
Hey, one more thing. How's your truck running? You got brakes?
Yes, the brakes are good. The truck's outside. Amelia just got a flat tire.
Oh,
Supposed to be having something towed, as she isn't here yet. So I had to take the truck out and put it away from the driveway. Yeah, it's running good. I just need to get those the sealings changed. The sealer, the sealers. It's leaking. So
sure.
Yeah, I don't. The two people, I don't. It was too much hoops and nothing was happening. I won't bring it to them on the principle now. Yes.
Yeah. I'm happy to hear it's working.
It's great. Yeah, it's great. It's beautiful as ever. All right, we have a beautiful day here in Northern Cal. It's sort of nice. I think I'll take it out for a drive, actually. All right, guys. Hey, thank you. Let me say goodbye to everyone. Nice to hear from you, Greg.
Yeah,
Dana, I got your donation, Dana. Thank you. And I made you a friend. But you were a friend already, so it was just a formality. John in Florida, nice to see you, my friend. Thank you for your donation too. Michael, Stacy. Don't get one of those white short sleeve shirts with the little pens on the pockets and shit. I'm gonna get worried about you. Yeah. Kathy, Cleveland. Nice to see you. There's Kurt. You feeling better, Kurt? This rough year, so it's looking up. Great.
Very good. Very good.
That's great. Al, Vegas. Oh, by the way, we're gonna be in back east doing a lot of actually AA stuff, recovery stuff, from the 15th to the 20th. So we're speaking, it's up on the website. And there'll be some changes in next week's, next week's schedule will appear on the website. But I'm leaving Wednesday night. Thursday, Friday, I work in the treatment center. Friday night, I speak to their clients. Saturday, Sunday, we have open meeting. And Sunday, there'll be an open meeting near Princeton, New Jersey, more of non-duality. So it's all up there on the website. But we'll be here today, right, Michael, at 4:30? Yep. And we'll be here tomorrow, and the whole week will be going the way it usually goes. All right, let's go back. All right, so Al, Vegas. Yeah, Steve, San Diego. Mia, I think in Greece still. Yes. Andrew. Andrew, yeah, good to see you. Yes. Rico. Joseph, a friend in France. Wendy, there she is. Nina. Hi, Nina. Mickey, the matriarch of Madeira. Mika, I had the pleasure of talking to Mika from Finland. Roman, I've had a lot of pleasure of talking with Roman. Yes. Oliver, nice to see you from Berlin. Jacob, I'm hoping to see Jacob next week. It'll be great. I'll give me a ring. I'll call you. Rich here, Rich now. Lynn D. She's changed the cloud to something else now. An imagery. Rob, Kentucky. Cassandra B. Let me see who else is here. We've got Grateful Dave, Amar, Patel, Annette, Elliot. I'm hoping to see Elliot back east. Fletch. I think that's it. Hey, thank you. Thank you for a wonderful little Zoom. Everyone holding the space. Fantastic. I'll see some of you later on, 4:30 Pacific time. Yeah.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, everyone.
We will release